Now, Bernie Sanders is still the most popular politician in America, and he towers above all other politicians that were polled in a recent Harvard Harris poll that was released to the Hill. Now, the whole poll is still not released, but there have been certain sections that have been released exclusively to the Hill, so I'm going to read those. Now, while they released no numbers on this, Senator Sanders remains the most popular politician in the country and is right now the only national figure in the poll that a majority of Americans view favorably. Now, that's very interesting because this comes after a lot of these different continued smear attacks by centrist Democrats painting Sanders and his supporters as members of the so-called alt-left. Now, we know alt-left doesn't exist, right? But it's funny because, again, they claim that it exists and they're sexist and they're misogynist and all sorts of terrible people. Well, supposedly these terrible people happen to be pretty popular, and especially among the majority of Democratic voters. So what I want to do is I want to do a comparison here with the numbers that we know. Again, we don't know the Sanders numbers, but we do know he's most popular, right? He's the most popular politician. So let's look at some of the other Democrats here and see how they fare against the progressive wing. First, you have Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Now, he polls at 28% favorable and 34% unfavorable. Now, Democrats view him positively by a 2-to-1 margin. That is unsurprising, okay? But overall, Chuck Schumer is fairly unpopular. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi posts a negative 31-47 split, but is viewed favorably by a large majority of Democrats. That might be problematic for Stephen Jaffe, who's running against Nancy Pelosi, challenging her in a primary. So, but then again, Jaffe really doesn't have his name out there when it comes to the race. So we'll see whether or not the Democrats in California, in Pelosi's district, will choose her or if they'll go with a progressive. We'll have to see. I'm hoping that they go with the progressive. Now, especially since he's running on the Bernie Sanders platform. Now, as for the Democratic Party overall, they have a 42% approval rating, which is actually better than it was right after the election, but still pretty dismal, as 48% of the American public still disapprove of the Democratic Party. Now, 70% of Democrats, however, say that they are happy with the direction that their party is going. So they're happy with the job the Democrats are doing. I would not be happy. I'm actually unhappy of the direction that they're moving, although I will give some credit to some of the Democrats that are starting to lean in a more progressive direction, because I think that's the way we need to go. But generally, I'm very unhappy with Nancy Pelosi and sort of unhappy with Chuck Schumer. I think we could go in a much more progressive direction. Now, the Republicans. Speaking of the parties, right? How are the Republicans doing? Not very well. The Republican Party's job approval now is at 30% positive and 70% negative. Sad. Now, look, much of that can be explained by their complete and utter failure to do anything. For example, they didn't repeal and replace Obamacare. That's something they promised. They didn't build a wall. And they have no legislative achievements despite having major majorities, okay? And they even had a chance to try and pass repeal and replace without needing the Democrats. So you can't just blame this on Democrats, right? They had a way where they only needed 50 votes, and Mike Pence could be the tiebreaker. They couldn't even get that done. So monumental failure, right? And a lot of that failure, it gets pinned on the leadership. In fact, how is the leadership doing? Also not well. House Speaker Paul Ryan now has a negative 33-47 split. So that's pretty bad, but not nearly as bad as the person who does worst on the list on this list. And that is not Donald Trump. Actually, it's Mitch McConnell. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell actually now has the lowest favorability rating of any elected official with a national profile. This is a disaster. He is polling at 19% favorability. He's doing worse than Trump. Much, much worse than Trump. In fact, 49% of voters polled have a negative view of Mitch McConnell. And in Kentucky, it gets worse for him. Now, he's up for re-election in 2020. And in Kentucky, he has an 18% job approval rating. There's a chance that if the Democrats can actually run a halfway decent candidate, unlike how they did last time, that McConnell will end up being turtle soup. If the Democrats, I have very little hopes for the Democrats, but maybe there's a Justice Democrat or, somebody from brand new Congress, a progressive, that picks up the mantle and decides to run in Kentucky. We will see if that happens. If they do and they run a good campaign, there's a chance that you could replace McConnell. But it will not be an easy fight. That's for sure. Now, again, McConnell, one more thing on him. He is the only Republican elected official that is not viewed favorably by a majority of his own party. So it's not just the American people as well. A lot of people in the Republican Party are pissed at McConnell. And that does not bode well for him as well. Again, this goes back to the failure of the Republicans to actually do anything. And a lot of them will blame McConnell for that. Now, finally, on to President Trump. President Trump currently has a 41% favorability rating. That's not great. His job approval rating is also pretty bad. Now, it's not at its lowest point in the Harvard-Harris survey, with 43% of respondents approving and 57% disapproving. So I believe it is at the lowest point in the Harvard-Harris survey. Now, Trump and McConnell, according to Harvard-Harris co-director Mark Penn, seem to be locked in a death spiral. He says if the Republicans don't unify with Trump and unify amongst themselves in tax reform, they could face some major losses given these numbers. So that shows how tax reform, what they call tax reform, it's really tax cuts for the rich, how much of an important thing that is for them to actually get done. And they all want it. And it's more likely to happen than the repeal of the ACA. So we'll see how that turns out. Right now, they, of course, have some very important things to get done first, including the debt ceiling, as well as the budget. So, but after that, they're going to try to cut taxes on the rich. And we'll see how that goes. There is some chance that Trump could even bungle that. We'll see. Now, this is, of course, all while Bernie Sanders continues to keep his spot as the most well-liked politician in America. Which makes me think that maybe the Democrats should learn something from him. Maybe they should adopt his policies. Now, some of them, to give them credit, are coming around. For example, H.R. 676, that's Medicare for All, introduced by John Conyers in the House of Representatives, now has over 100 co-sponsors. That's pretty good. And even Cory Booker, somebody that I have criticized, rightly so, has recently introduced legislation to legalize marijuana on the federal level. That's good progress. I like those pieces of legislation. That's a step forward. That's what we need to do in the Democratic Party. The conversations have certainly changed in Congress. Now it's, instead of debts and austerity, we're now talking about things like a living wage and expanding healthcare. Now, the establishment still doesn't like having these conversations, right? So what they're doing is that they're trying to continue to smear Bernie Sanders and his supporters. But as you can see from these polls, those attempts to smear him have been largely unsuccessful. And I don't see them as being successful anytime soon. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.